Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are having a wonderful, awesome day. Thank y'all for joining us. Today we're going to be going over part 2 of the retirement series here in Eastern Tennessee. Now, in part 1, we went over Tellico Village, we went over Townsend, we went over Seymour. We also talked about some pros and some cons to retiring here to East Tennessee. So if you missed that, I would definitely recommend, checking that video out. Okay, and now for you guys out there who maybe you're not looking to retire, you're just kind of trying to check some areas out, stay tuned because this video is going to be really helpful for you as well. And we're going to start this video out just like we did on part 1. We're going to talk about a couple pros, a couple cons, make sure that this is going to be the right fit for you, your family. So, pro number 1. I'm going to say the people. I'm a real firm believer that the people really make the place. And I think the people of East Tennessee are really like a big draw. Why so many people have, moved here over the years. And keep in mind, people have been moving here forever. The pandemic and everything definitely got a lot more people up and going. I think politics and other things like that have people up and moving around. But in general, people have always come here. And I really think that a lot of it is because we have so much opportunity from the lakes, from the mountains, the cities, and then also, like I said, the people. I mean, this is one of those places where we know our neighbors, we help our neighbors, and we just really have a good bunch of people. That's the best way I can say it. Raising a family, I wouldn't want to raise one anywhere else. And also whenever I retire, I wouldn't want to retire anywhere else. Reason number 2, I think that you might want to retire to Eastern Tennessee is because of where it lies geographically. You guys may have heard me talk about this a bunch, and I might be beating a dead horse, but I really do think that it's so nice to be able to drive in so many directions to get to all kinds of different places. So I've got clients who have family that lives up north. They don't want to deal with the snow and the cold, so they live here because it's a reasonable drive back and forth. The same thing with people in the south. There's people, I have clients that got family, in the south. We have family in lower Alabama. So it's a 6.5-hour drive down there. It's not bad at all. And we don't have to live down there with all that heat fog. It gets hot enough here. I don't want any more hotness. Okay. So with that, now let's talk about a few cons, maybe some reasons you wouldn't want to retire here to East Tennessee. Con number 1 is going to be the sales tax, okay? So we do have a higher sales tax here in East Tennessee. It's just under 10 cents on the dollar. So, it is pretty high compared to some of the other places. When you're buying things, you're certainly going to notice it if you're not used to that. But I would say the caveat to it is that all in all, even with a higher sales tax, our cost of living here is still 15% lower than the national average. Our property taxes are relatively low. We don't have a state income tax, and just the all-around cost of living is not bad at all. So keep that in mind. Although I'm saying that's a negative, when you kind of look at the grand scheme of things, it's like, you're always going to have some ups and some downs. So number 2, my second reason is going to be rainfall. So here in Eastern Tennessee, we get about 53 inches of rain per year, and obviously that depends on climate, but if you Google it, that's what you're going to come up with. Now the national average is about 30 inches of rain, so we are quite a bit higher. Now, I personally like that we get a lot of rain because it keeps East Tennessee beautiful. It keeps our rivers full, keeps our plants and our wildlife healthy. Also, it keeps me from having to water my garden all the time. I really like that. This year we've got a ton of rain and it has been so nice. I've got a crap ton of tomatoes. My neighbors are tired. They're like ducking me because they know I'm going to ask them if they want more tomatoes. So, so if you're a gardener like myself, that is actually a positive, but I can definitely see how someone could view that as a negative if you're not used to it, especially, if you get caught in a rainstorm, if you've got to drive around in it, it can kind of be a bummer. But, again, it's really not that bad. I mean, we're, 20 more inches. So those are my cons. And again, and cons for me are the hardest thing to come up with whenever I'm doing these videos, just because, I'm calling around and talking to a bunch of people, all my clients that have retired here, even just families that have moved here, and people really don't have a whole lot of bad things to say about it. So with that, we are going to go ahead and dive right into this video, and you guys already know by the title, we're talking about Maryville, but more specifically, we're talking about all of Blount County. Now, the reason I want to do this video about Blount County is because the last video, part 1, I picked 3 towns, and we really dove into those 3 towns. Now, when I was trying to brainstorm on what I was going to do, for these 3 towns, I kept landing on some different places. And if you Google best places to retire in East Tennessee, Maryville is going to pop up. So I was like, man, I got to do something in Maryville or Blount County. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Let's scratch the 3 towns. Let's just do the whole county of Blount County, because I think that Blount County as a whole is a great place to retire for several reasons. And most of those reasons are, everything that Maryville has to offer, but still there's just so much more. So let's dive right in. I'm going to run through these towns, just kind of give you a general overview, and then we're going to hop into our categories like we did in the last video. So starting off, I want to go north of Knoxville, and I want to talk about Rockford. If you look at Rockford on a map, it is about midway between Knoxville and Maryville, more specifically downtown Knoxville and Maryville. Rockford is a rural country town. This would be a great place to live if you wanted to have good access or faster access to UT Hospital. So UT Hospital is going to be known, and if you look at any of the rating sites for hospitals, it's going to, rate probably the highest one in our area. So that's really good to have close by, and you can still be in the country, and you still have Maryville for all your shopping and any other doctors' offices or anything like that you may need. So I do like Rockford. Moving on, we'll talk about Louisville. I lived in Louisville for a long time, and it's near and dear to my heart. I love Louisville. It's one of those places where it used to be that no one wanted to live there because it was so far out, but now all of a sudden everyone wants to live there because people have discovered that, hey, 15 minutes is not that far of a drive. Now, one of the two big draws to Louisville is, one, you're right on Fort Loudon Lake. So you've got a lot of lake access, there's a lot of public access, marinas and such. And the second reason is because if you look here, you'll see you've got I-40. Now, us locals call this Pellissippi. This is a really quick way to get to Knoxville, more specifically West Knoxville. So you've got fast access to Maryville, and you've got fast access to West Knoxville. Now, moving down, we're going to talk about Friendsville. Friendsville's got a lot of the same vibes as Louisville and their neighboring kind of towns. So you're gonna feel very similar in both of those. You've got some lake properties that are really nice. You've got some farmland. You've got some neighborhoods, a little mixture of everything. I guess the difference in Friendsville and Louisville, the main difference is that Friendsville is a little further out. It's not quite as close to Knoxville. It's also not quite as close to Maryville. And I guess that's really dependent on what specific part of the town you're in. So maybe scratch that. But you are closer to Lenoir City if you're in that kind of lower Friendsville area. So you could find yourself living in Blount County, but shopping in Lenoir City because it's a little bit closer. So moving on down, we're going to talk about Greenback. Greenback is the place to where if I were going to move right now, if I could pick anywhere to move to, it would be Greenback. My reason is this, okay? If you're in that kind of part of Greenback and I'll show you right here on the map, that's a little bit closer to Maryville, kind of off this Morganton Road. Morganton Road, just so you know, that's a road that runs from basically the middle of Maryville all the way through Greenback to Tellico Lake. So a lot of people that live in Greenback are using Morganton Road. But if you live right here in kind of this general area, you're really close to Maryville. So you're 10-15 minutes from Maryville, but you still live in the country. And Greenback really has that country feel. You absolutely have neighborhoods, you absolutely have, a hodgepodge of everything, but you have a ton of farmland. It's relatively flat for Tennessee. That doesn't mean that you're going to have a flat lot wherever you are. There's certainly some hills, some rolly stuff, but in general, it's a little flatter. So it's just really pretty. It just feels like a country town, and I love Greenback. My father-in-law lives there, and we're down there all the time. Okay, and then if we move, basically now we're to the point to where we're kind of just south of Maryville, and this section is actually Maryville. It's the county of Maryville, and this is where I currently live. So, a lot of people think of Maryville as just the city where you've got all the shopping and city schools and everything like that. But once you get down here into this lower part where you're kind of butting up against the Smoky Mountains on one side, and then you've got some lakes on the other side. Now this area is really nice because you don't have to pay those higher city taxes. Just so you know, in Tennessee, if you live in the city, you pay double taxes. Now with paying double taxes, you do get things like trash service, you get fire department, sometimes you have brush pickup, and you've got city schools. So that would be kind of the downfall, is that we don't have city schools. We live in Maryville, but actually have county schools. So that's something to keep an eye out if you're moving here with a family. Now the county schools are just fine. I graduated from one myself. I've been just fine, and several others have as well. Just keep that in mind if you're moving here for Maryville City Schools. You want to be in the city. But we're not talking about the city right now. We're talking about the county. This area is nice. As you would expect, the closer you get to the mountains, which this area is getting very close, this is where you're going to get into a lot more mountain views, a lot more rolling and steep land. That's not to say it's all rolling and it's all steep. That's just to say you're going to have more of it there. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this area as well, and even in Greenback, is the closer you get down here to this stretch of water where you got like Tellico and Chilhowie, the closer you are down here, the further away from Maryville you're going to be. And if you're someone that wants to be closer to shopping and medical things, you might want to stay a little bit closer, get a little bit closer to the city, because you could be 25 to 45 minutes out depending on where you are down here. Now, moving on, we're going to move on to Townsend and this Wallen area. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Townsend because we did talk about it in the first video, but Wallen is such a wonderful compromise if you don't want to spend those Townsend prices, or if you just can't find anything in Townsend to buy, because Wallen is right in the middle of Maryville and Townsend. I actually lived in Wallen when I was in high school. I lived there from my freshman year to my senior year, and I really liked it. It's really pretty, and the cool thing is that you can drive 10-15 minutes in one direction and be in the middle of Maryville. So you've got all your medical stuff, you've got all your shopping stuff, whatever you need down there, and then you can drive 10-15 minutes the other direction and you can be in the national park. Or if you want to, go check out Townsend or something. So Wallen is really nice for that. I've had some people asking me to do a video on Wallen. The only reason I haven't is because it's such a small town. And I do eventually want to do videos on these smaller towns. I just have to knock out kind of these bigger chunks first, and then I'll definitely get into those. But Wallen, I definitely highly recommend. I think it's a cool place. Okay, and now we're going to get into the cities, right? We've got Maryville City, which you guys have heard me talk a lot about. Great schools according to niche.com. You've got great shopping by, all accounts. You've got, just so much stuff going on there. But something that gets kind of hidden in the shadows is Alcoa. Alcoa has great schools according to niche.com. They have really good athletics. You might have heard of Randall Cobb. He's a wide receiver in the NFL. He's had a very good career. He's from Alcoa. You might also know this, or maybe you don't, but the airport is technically in Alcoa. So, if you're someone who's going to be utilizing the airport, maybe you're flying back and forth, or you got family and friends that are going to be flying in, Blount County could be great for you because you do have the airport in the county, okay? And now something else with Alcoa is Alcoa has great shopping. You've got a lot of cool local spots, and you've got a lot of, your big box franchisee stuff. A lot of times you're not even going to really notice if you're shopping in Maryville or Alcoa because there's like a little overlay there. But just know that the shopping is really good in both of those areas there. Now, something else with Alcoa I want to highlight is, when we were talking about Louisville, we were talking about how you have Pellissippi, which is, that's one of you have two main highways that go from Blount County to Knoxville. Pellissippi is one of them, and Alcoa Highway is the other. And that's actually, McGee Tyson is right off of Alcoa Highway. Just wanted to throw that out there, just so you know. Okay, and let's talk about sales price. So I can't really go through and tell you what each little town is gonna go for. You can certainly Google, just type median sales price in Friendsville or Louisville, and you can go through and actually look at all that yourself, but I'm trying to not do 40-minute videos. So the average price point in Blount County is about $394,000, and that's pretty realistic. I mean, obviously it's median, so you're gonna have some lake homes that are gonna drive that property up. You're gonna have some bigger, nicer neighborhoods, but I think that that's probably pretty realistic. I think from 300 and up should get you something decent in the area, depending on where you want to be. So that's something that we're really just gonna have to talk more about, like one-on-one with what exactly you're looking for. But that's what the sales price is. Now, we've talked about shopping in Maryville a bunch. Blount County as a whole is going to have a bunch of stuff scattered around. Blount County is not one of those one-road towns where you've got one road with a bunch of shopping on it. You're going to have a bunch of hodgepodge areas around, especially in Maryville and Alcoa. So, just know that you're really going to have just a variety of everything. You're going to have a bunch of local stuff. You're going to have a bunch of like big box franchisee stuff. You're going to have really good restaurants. You're going to have middle of the road restaurants. You're going to have fast food restaurants. Like, you're just, variety is you're really going to have it. If you want to go to the grocery store, you're going to have a whole handful to pick from. They're building a Publix right now at Foothills Mall. Okay. So again, shopping you're going to be covered there. And also you've got, Knoxville, which is just 20-30 minutes away. So if you need something that Maryville doesn't have, you're not far away from the bigger city. Now let's talk about medical. And now look, I can't go through and just rate every single medical facility that we have. So I would recommend that you maybe do that on your own. What I will tell you is when it comes to medical, I really think that you're going to be covered in Maryville. You have a wide variety of different doctor's offices, different specialists. You've got Blount Memorial Hospital, which if you look at the ratings, like it's kind of a middle of the road. But we're going there with for our pregnancy and everything like that. It became highly recommended, and so far we've been really happy with them. It's kind of like anything, you're gonna have mixed reviews, but what you can do is reach out to some locals, and a good way to do this is to check out some of the Facebook groups, and there's 3 that I would recommend if you're looking into Blount County. There's Maryville Matters, there's Blount County Speaks Out, and there's a Newcomers to Maryville. Okay, you could go join these sites and just go in there and ask questions. People are more than willing to help out, and you don't even have to tell them that you don't live here or that you're new to the area. You can just say, hey, I'm looking for a doctor that does this. Who do you recommend? And you're going to get such good knowledge going that direction versus trying to, find the information on YouTube, because I don't think anyone's going to be able to go through and just rate them all. So as far as medical goes, like I said, Blount Memorial Hospital, tons of options in Maryville. You're going to be covered there. And then also you're going to have UT Hospital, which is, UT Hospital rates very highly, in most of those rating websites. So keep that in mind as well. And then you're going to have West Knoxville, which is going to have a whole slew of other options as well. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about the activities, things to do in Blount County. So you have a whole bunch of stuff going on in Blount County. The cool thing about it is Blount County is kind of surrounded by a bunch of cool stuff. So, on this bottom kind of southern part, you've got the Smoky Mountain range. On the northern western part, you've got Fort Loudon Lake, and then you've got Tellico Lake. So, you've got all the stuff that comes with the lakes, the marinas, the water sports, the fishing. You've got hiking trails all along Tellico Lake, and then you've got the mountains where you've got tons of hiking trails, tons of places to go check out, lots of rivers and streams and stuff like that. And then aside from that, if you're not really all that outdoorsy, you've got tons of different things, within Maryville. There's all kinds of different, fitness classes. You know, there's lots of different clubs and things like that that you can be a part of. There's breweries if you're into that. You know, there's tons of different good restaurants and stuff. There's some parks if you want to take your family there. You've got the Greenbelt Park, which is right in the middle of downtown Maryville. You've got Sandy Springs Park, which is in Maryville as well. It's a really nice park. Lots of, you know, walkways and paths. You've got your baseball courts, your basketball courts, your playgrounds. You've got Sandy Springs Park, which is in Alcoa. I couldn't tell you how many birthdays I've had in Sandy Springs Park, but I can tell you it's a lot. It seemed like every year that's just where my birthday was when I was a kid. But again, it's another cool park with tons of, you know, public stuff going on there as well. And then you're also going to have different events. So, you know, we talked about all the events going on in Townsend in our last video, so go check that out if you're interested. But Maryville does a lot of the same stuff as well. So, it's not quite as much as Townsend, but we do from time to time. They'll shut down like downtown Maryville, that Broadway section. They'll shut that street down and they'll have a whole bunch of vendors out there with just different local things going on. We also, every Saturday from like spring through the fall, we have a Maryville farmers market. You know, that's a really cool place to go check out some farms, get some good produce, and just check out new things. So really, there's a ton going on. You know, like, there's a lot of opportunity here. It really just depends on, you know, what you want to do yourself. And you know, I'm a big fan, like I said, of community. And speaking of community, you can get involved in a lot of different things here, you know, via your church or via, you know, your hobbies. You know, if you're someone who likes to ride bikes, you know, there's bicycle clubs, there's, you know, bicycle shops. You can go and talk to people. If you're a hiker, I'm sure there's hiking clubs. There's places you can go to talk to people. You know, like I said, fishing, like Little River Outfitters in Townsend, like they've put me on so many cool little streams and given me so much good information. Like there's a lot of people you can talk to figure these things out, and then you can get involved with different clubs, different Facebook groups and things like that, to where you can start meeting up with people, you know, building that community and really enjoying your retirement. You worked so hard to get here, you might as well enjoy it. And why not enjoy it right here in Eastern Tennessee? So I may sound pretty biased whenever I'm talking about this place, but just know that it's true love. I love this place. I'll never leave. I don't think I'll ever leave. It'd take a whole lot of money to get me out of Eastern Tennessee. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank every single one of you who have reached out to me. I don't make a dime from YouTube. All of my money comes through referrals through YouTube, through, you know, you guys, you know, trusting me to help you with your home search and everything like that. So every single call I get is very, very much appreciated. Also, if you have, you know, any towns or anything you want me to do a video on, make a comment down below, because I do keep a rolling list so that I can try to keep up and, you know, really service everyone's needs. So just let me know if there's something you want me to do a video on, and I'll knock it out. And with that, I'm going to end the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Again, thank you so much. Have a great day.